enough for you all to be great. You must be exceptional. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Adela and I am a graduate student of the sociology department. I was very lucky to have Dr. Bush 4 times, 2 undergraduate, 1 graduate, and even more blessed to have taken him for contemporary sociology last semester and been in the last class that I think he taught. One of my most favorite memories, apart from always dropping by his office and always chatting away for maybe something that was a question returning to 3 hours. Apart from that, one of my most favorite memories of Dr. Bush had to have been on that last class. I remember just in the middle of class when we had to call the ambulance because we knew something was wrong. And I remember as the whole class, nobody left, was standing there. Dr. Bush, even in his hardest time, was making jokes, letting people put their papers in his bag, just really acting like nothing was happening. And as the ambulance came to take him away, he looked at the group that was still there, and in his most sincere way, and the way he always did, he'd look in to the distance with so much conviction, and he looked at all of us and he said, "I really love you guys." And I knew he meant everything he said, but in that moment, I knew that it might have been the last time we would be with him in that way. But I'll never forget that because he really did love us all, and I never felt in any of his classes judged. I never felt that I couldn't raise my hand to say something. I never felt like there was something on the paper that I couldn't write. He opened the door for people to say what they wanted to say about society, reflect on society, but also reflect on what they could do. And out of all of my teachers that I had at St. John's, I think one of the most doing people was Dr. Bush, because he not only lived out what he said, he spoke about it, he taught about it, and he made it his life, and that's what I'll take from him. And for that, I just really want to say thank you, and I feel so blessed, like many of my classmates have been a part of that, and to continue being a part of that, and as he would always say, be a part of the revolution, because it begins with all of us. So thank you, Dr. Bush.
Hey everyone, my name's Karina, and I had Dr. Bush last semester. I was in the same class as Adela, so we were in the last class together. And it was actually the only semester that I had Dr. Bush, and it was the first time I met him. And someone mentioned before that as soon as he walked in the room, he was just there. He was present, and he was big, and you knew it. And what I found really inspirational about him was that up until the very end, he was caring about his students. He was teaching his students. He was emailing back to us while he was in the hospital. He was still trying to come up with lectures while he was in the hospital. And I think one of the most heartbreaking moments for our class was when our graduate assistant was teaching the class, and they had, pulled up the notes that Dr. Bush had sent, and he was, scribbling on the bottom of it with, what he wanted to say, what he wanted to teach. And just for him to be able to do that under the circumstances was absolutely incredible. It really inspired me to keep pushing forward, to keep going. And I remember emailing Melanie and telling her, the life lessons and the academic lessons that he had taught, and she responded and said, "Can you share with me what some of those were?" And it actually took a moment, and it took a while, because there was so much, there were so many, from the moment he walked in the door to the moment he walked out at the end of class. It didn't end there. He was in his office, he was there for his students, and how do you possibly explain that in a couple sentences? And one of the things I said was that it wasn't just about academia for him, it was also about his family and the love he had, which really encompasses who he was. I remember him sharing a story with us about how he went to visit his grandchildren, and it was in the middle of him finishing up his book, and how he used to, fall asleep next to Melanie every night, and it was just incredible to hear him have so much love and compassion, not just for his students, but for everyone around him. Thank you.
I had the distinct privilege of walking into saw them lay on the bed, one saw love, warmth, and care, and a sense of oneness. I'm the resident chaplain at Mount Sinai Medical Center. And his concern was not his illness. There was no anxiety about his diagnosis, even though at the moment it wasn't clear, because his laptop was open. And he was preoccupied with the lessons, the lectures he should have delivered, the papers that needed to be graded, the exams that were coming, because there was a semester of students who were dependent upon him. To the casual observer, one would have thought that he was a denier. If I followed the classic trend of training, we look, is this person in now, is this person fearful? But one quickly understood that this man's life transcended the moment. He would not allow a set of circumstances of the moment to dictate his behavior. He had a sense of conviction about who he was and what he was responsible for. He brought them on the Sinai that conviction. No matter whether it's the doctors, the nurses, or the patient care associates, he treated them with compassion and care, and tenderness and affection, that as they left the room, they felt that they were in the presence of greatness and someone who really cared. And we talked. And during that conversation, we discovered that we had a mutual friend. When I pastored in Rochester, my organist, Dr. James Bowman, was a boyhood friend of Dr. Bush, with whom he was trying to reconnect over the years. We were able to facilitate that meeting, and that's the 10-year friend that he was able to reconnect with. But then our discussion quickly proceeded to the matters of his heart, the struggle, and the issues, and the role that religion had played in perpetuating injustice, and why religion fails to be meaningful unless it seeks to elevate the conversation and liberate men and women from the shackles of prejudice and racism. Because the concepts of scholarship are abstract unless they find reality in the concrete experience of our lives. And Dr. Bush's life was a concrete expression of those concepts that he taught. But more than that, the impact of his legacy was that it was his life that measured those concepts to determine the absurdity or the profundity. If they were absurd, he challenged them. He was not afraid to challenge a conclusion, to confront the reasoning, to disagree with the argument. Because he had a set of archetypes which he would not compromise, which gave room to his conviction. And at the end of the day, it was not merely being acceptable to academia or loved by others, it was being true to himself. And his conviction for truth and justice meant that we had to move beyond integration to mutuality. We had to find deference with each other. For authenticity to him meant that we were not only telling the truth, but we were allowing other people in their transparency to join ours so we can shape a new paradigm where we find neutrality and deference to each other. It was a phenomenal experience for me, and I'm here today because through my life, I've had many wonderful things and met many great people, but never have I met a man like Dr. Bush. Thank you so much.
I attended STJOHNS in 2001 to 2006. There wasn't a class that Dr. Bush taught in that time that I didn't take. I took every single class that he taught during that time. Someone mentioned earlier with the really long syllabi that he always had, and like extensive book list. And I remember always writing like 27, 30-page papers, and he'd take the time every time to go through each and every single page. And I also had an opportunity to adjunct at St. John's, and he was there for me every step of the way. Someone said 3 o'clock emails, yes, he he never stopped us. So I was freaking out, like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to bomb. And so I emailed him. And yeah, I got an email back at like 3:30 that morning. He's like, you'll be fine, just calm down. And he really took the time to go over everything with me. He came to my class to observe me. And he always had a positive word to encourage me. And his dream for me was that I go do my PhD in sociology. And I decided to go do a degree in nursing. So he was very disappointed, and he was very hurt. He was like, I'm so hurt. He's like, I'm writing a recommendation, but I just want you to know I'm very hurt about this. And he did it with a heavy heart. He's like, I'm heavy hearted about this, but he really wrote me a really nice recommendation, all that aside. And he was just always there for us. Hi, my name is Latoya. And I hesitated coming up here because I didn't want to start bawling and like bringing down the mood of the room. But I will say that after watching the video that was created and hearing your stories, it warms my heart to know that I wasn't the only one that knew Dr. Bush that way. Like he has a way of speaking to you where you feel like, you're the only one that has that relationship with him. And it's so good to see that so many people had that relationship with him and he inspires so many people. And how much he believed in us, even when we didn't believe in ourselves, right? Believed in me so much that one semester, right after I graduated with my master's, he asked me to fill in for him for his class because he was going on leave that semester. And this was the first time I was ever teaching a course, and then at STJOHNS at that, So the students tolerated me, but they really wanted Dr. Bush. They were very disappointed to see me walk into the classroom on the first day of class. But I just hope that I can take everything that I've learned from Mr. Dr. Bush and Mrs. Dr. Bush, who both opened up their heart and their arms and their homes and everything to us and to me. And I just hope that I can take that and inspire my students and inspire my family and everybody else coming up and push them to think about how you're never too small to change the world or to do anything. Thank you.
I think, like a lot of the students here, I've been graduating about 9 years now. I was a graduate student. I was also Dr. Bush's graduate assistant back in 2005. And I just feel like Dr. Bush has obviously impacted so many lives. I don't even know if he knew how many lives he's impacted. It's just very unfortunate that he's no longer with us. I think my main takeaway was, much like everybody else, I think I share the same sentiments. It's just, we matter. Like, I matter. Out of all of my graduate school professors, he's the one that has touched me the most personally and professionally and education-wise. And I want to offer my condolences to the family, and he will be missed. And yeah.
Melanie Bush, who was Rob's soulmate and very, very powerful how many people here feel so moved by God, and I know by Melanie, and we'll keep on that fight, keep on with the spirit that God and Melanie are. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all your thoughts, and we'll be continuing the conversation at the end toward the back area of the room. But now we're going to have Dr. Byfield share her thoughts.
I just told someone that I think I'm going to say, and just repeat what everyone else has been saying, is I found God to be just the same way with me also. And I first met Rod in February of 2007 when I interviewed for my job in the sociology department. And like the other members of the department, he listened attentively as I did my presentation. Then, in his own way, he let me know I had his support. In a very brief conversation that day, he let me know that he thought my work was important. And that made me feel wonderful. And he remained consistently supportive throughout the rest of the time that we worked together in sociology. What I also came to learn in the time we worked together is that Rod was like that with many people. He was a champion of our work, and if he felt that you have something to offer, he would more than just put himself out there to say, no, push forward with that. It's important that you do that. His commitment to his students came from a deep place within. What I saw was this: from that place where he nurtured his own ideas for social change, he saw young people as the promise that could bring these ideas to fruition. He regularly articulated by thought, action, and deed the need for planting the seeds for the future. Students who took a cotton to his ideas and beliefs about how social change could take place flocked to him. Even some who didn't subscribe to his ideas liked to debate him. So they would sometimes take on his ideas in class and love the challenge of debating him. He was fed by their ideas and the ways in which they analyzed their world. Mostly now, as I look back and search for meaning in all that's transpired since November, I think that he saw himself in many of his students. A young person working for social change and believing it was not illogical to think that it could be just around the corner, despite the insurmountable obstacle of living within, as they used to say back in the day, living in the belly of the beast. It's a term, people used to describe the U.S. because U.S. foreign policy pitted young Americans in the movement against the people whose struggles for freedom inspired them to call for justice and equality. During his time, the young Americans in the various movements who looked at third world people unyoking themselves from colonialism and oppression and used that awareness to internationalize their analysis of the obstacles to ending inequality and injustice were often dismissed as immature and rebellious. Someone with Rod's degree of consciousness and commitment was not about to do that. He would never do that in his dealings with young people. He gave credence to their ideas and showed them where to find the history to give their ideas wings. I love the way he incorporated history in his work, and one day I said to him, I said that to him. In the process, I told him that history was one of my favorite subjects, but I didn't always see it being used in sociology in the way I liked. He just smiled, chuckled, and said, well, Natalie, sociologists have a complicated relationship with history. He put his faith solidly on the people whose day in and day out struggle to end oppression would likely provide the answers for how we needed to move forward to arrive at a just social order. One day we were having a conversation about New York City politics and the struggles poor people and people of color are undergoing. And I said, sometimes the current situation makes me feel as if we are back to the 1850s and we are re-arguing the 1856 Dred Scott decision. And he said, the people out there already know that. Our role as academics is to find the language and the background we need to give wings to their knowledge because they're living it and they know it. This is not something he took lightly. In the spring of 2012, Rod came in the office one day wearing a hoodie instead of his usual business suit. Everyone in the department, we used to him in a suit. And he was wearing a hoodie, but he had the pants and the dress shirt and the tie. But he looked drawn and really upset, and I asked him what the matter was. And he looked at me quizzically as if, what's wrong with you? Don't you know what's going on? And he said, didn't you hear about Trayvon Martin? Didn't you hear about what happened in Sanford, Florida? I know that area. I know that place. And I started thinking, that's right. Because of course I had heard about Trayvon Martin, but I came into work. And when I came into work, I was sort of in my work mode, and there was no mode for him. He was there. He was always present. That's right, I thought. He's from Florida. He lived through this so many times, and he's living through it again, like so many who came before me. The look on his face showed me how he deeply felt the pain the Martin family was going through, and the pain of everyone else who had just had enough of things like this. For that moment, I saw the wellspring of his commitment to family, to community, and to the world in which he lived. This was no momentary thing for him. Mostly now, as I said, I look back and I try to make meaning out of all of it. And I see the need to honor his legacy and to preserve his work. I take having known him, I take from him lessons about how to move forward as I imagine and work for a world free of inequality and oppression. I take from him lessons about how to work with my students, lessons about how to never separate yourself into different compartments and to just take that commitment that you have about the world and exercise it in every aspect of your life. So it's been a distinct pleasure for me, really, to work with so many students as we were organizing this, and to see just how important he's been to them and why it's so important, given all that we've learned from him and are taking from him to keep his legacy alive. For me, it's really been a privilege to have known him.
Next, we're going to enjoy, step your game up, and I've been trying for like 3 hours to figure out how to say that and sound cool, and it's not going to happen. We're going to dance.
Because the angels came, no more grief or sorrow, no more suffering or pain. Now there's everlasting peace, because the angels came. Only God knows what is best, and He gently holds my hand, guiding me to a better place, because the angels came. When the sun rises tomorrow and I answer not my name, please don't cry. Rejoice with me, because the angels came. I now can rest in peace as I never could before. I answer into the knock of the angels at my door. So please, don't mourn for me. As new wings I now claim, I can take my flight to heaven, because the angels came.
Now we would like to invite Dr. Melanie Bush and Fabi to make some remarks.
Greetings. I'll say first thank you on behalf of the family. Thank you to all the students in the room for all the love that you gave Mr. Doctor, because he glowed from his interactions with you. Thank you to his colleagues for your friendship, because that gave him strength. Thank you to all of you who participate in putting together this event. We have right today here Malik, son, Sarafina, daughter, Razi, mother-in-law. And on behalf of us and Thimbi, who's not able to be with us today, and our grandchildren, we want to say thank you, because while he was at St. John's, in a sense, we were also at St. John's, and we're the beneficiaries of the love that you gave him, and we're appreciative. In terms of my comments, I'd like to first read from Rod, Mr. Dr. Bush, statement for promotion last year with minor edits that I cleared with him. He said just a year ago, I came to St. John's University in 1998 seeking to work with a racially and ethnically diverse student body with a substantial proportion of students from working class backgrounds. Since most of my adult life had been dedicated to the quest for social justice and had been governed by the idea that I am my brother and sister's keeper, St. John's was an ideal place for me to pursue my mission of helping to raise the next generation of critical intellectuals and to engage them in the study of the world around, so they would see themselves as inheritors of a history and circumstance for which they would seriously engage, not simply fit in and do what they were told. He said before the board of examiners for his full professor process, my scholarship reflects both a long-standing and evolving intellectual agenda, and it reflects my engagement and discussions with my students as I attempt to address not only my peers and the general public, but the young, socially interested and engaged intellectuals that I work with every day at St. John's. That's you. Part of my mission is to help them, he said, see their identity as young intellectuals, but not only, and that they should not only embrace that identity, but lift themselves up to the challenge that it poses to be intellectually serious. That seriousness would enable them to contextualize what they were doing at St. John's. And taking students out into the world of community and social activists and to academic conferences gives them the opportunity to meet and engage with people who are doing exciting work and to see themselves as doing exciting work at the highest levels. He said, in this way, they connect theory and research to social transformation and practice. My scholarly work is intertwined with my personal aspirations for justice and solidarity, and with the work I do in my teaching and mentorship. Now, if Dr. Bush were addressing you today, he would have added that you are what gave him eternal hope and a profound belief in the power of the people to overcome. His family and our partnership may have given him joy and a reason to laugh and to live, but you are what kept him believing that anything is possible. So take his trust in you and carry it forward. There's much to be done and little time to do it. Make doing it part of your every moment. For creating that better world is indeed not only about tomorrow, it is about today. It is about how we love and care for each other, whether we step out of our own distresses and our comforts and be there when someone needs us. It is